Well, Jeff, let's get it all started with how did you get involved with football as a kid?
Well, actually, I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, so I grew up in Arrowhead Stadium as a diehard Chiefs fan. And, obviously I was too young to really know what was going on, but I was in the stadium, believe it or not. And the Royals, Chiefs, all those Kansas City teams were, where my heart was and is. I still cheer for them. But, I didn't really have a desire to play football. I was a soccer guy. I started soccer in Oklahoma when I was 5 years old, and played soccer for 15 years, 15 years. And I could kick the ball a mile. Everyone was always trying to take away my right-footed shot because I could, I was powerful and could kick it a mile. And so I would switch to the left foot and couldn't kick it quite as far, but I could kick it just as good. And, so that, I wanted to play professional soccer, but I also knew that probably, unless it was God's plan to do that, wasn't going to happen. I was good. I thought I was pretty good, but I wouldn't say I made, I played on some state teams and travel teams and all that stuff, but, the quality of the players was great. And I was pretty good, but I wouldn't say I was the best one on the field at all times. I played that way at times, but I wouldn't, with the talent that was around me, it was pretty fun. So my senior year in high school, actually right after my junior year was over in the summertime, I got a pamphlet in the mail, and I had been asked since the sixth grade on to kick field goals, punt, kick off, whatever, just because everyone knew what I could do on the soccer field. And I wasn't real excited about it. I didn't feel like getting hit, to be honest with you. I was the biggest guy on the soccer field and knocked the little fast guys around. I enjoyed that, and then finally after that, my dad came up to me after all the coaches told me, begged me to play. And he said, listen, you don't have to do anything. Your grades are straight A's. You're great on the soccer field. You're doing everything we ask you as parents. But if you want to try football, this would be the last opportunity before you head off to college. And I said, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but you'll have to go to the field with me and we'll see what happens. And, once again, the football is shaped a little different than soccer ball. So I kicked it far, but not real straight. And, because I was hooking it a lot, because that's what you can do with soccer balls. You can volley them, half volley, curve inside and outside of the foot, all kind of stuff with a round soccer ball. Not the case with a football. So I went to a camp, which I worked at for 20 years after that, and learned the fundamentals. I carried some of them up to the field my senior year and was 9 for 11 on field goals with a long of 54 yards. And, I was all state, all conference, all county, all this stuff that I never even thought was reachable, and only being my first year. And, I walked on to Chapel Hill. I had a couple smaller schools offer me scholarships for football, some for soccer as well. But I wanted to get my education from the Tar Heels, and I did, in journalism and mass communication, and a minor in communications. So that's why I walked on there. Mac Brown was the coach. I pretty much asked him if I could walk on. He said, absolutely. We don't have scholarship for you, but sometime down the road you can earn it. And so that's pretty much to answer your question, what got me into kicking was soccer, and my dad's word over any other coach that was begging me to be one of their guys.
Definitely. Your parents usually have some influence. Definitely, man. So
that's right.
As a kid growing up, who are some of your sports role models?
Well, crazy enough, because I didn't grow up in Kansas City, but I lived in the Midwest until I was 5 years old. Actually, until I was 10 years old. We lived in Oklahoma after Kansas and Missouri, and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina when I was 10. But I was a Nick Lowry fan. He was a kicker for the Chiefs. I was a Derek Thomas fan, who was a linebacker, which I didn't care about being a linebacker. I just loved the way he played the game. And really short and cool story about that. Obviously, he passed in a terrible car accident, but I don't know if she still does it. Hopefully she's healthy. But his mother, Derek Thomas's mother, always feeds the away team when you play at Arrowhead. And I had no idea of that until I played there in Pittsburgh with Pittsburgh. And it was the coolest thing. I told her, I said, when I was growing up a soccer player, I was a diehard Chiefs fan, and your son was my favorite player. I got a big poster on the wall. Now they call him fatheads or something. Back then, it was just a long piece of paper, and he that was and it was really cool that she fed us Kansas City barbecue and all the good stuff that's not the healthiest for you, but man, we loved it. So that was a quick story about him. But I mean, obviously Baggio, Roberto Baggio, back in the day, was an Italian soccer player. He's equivalent to Messi now. He was a role model. I mean, these are just guys that I love to watch play sports because of their competitive nature and the way they handled themselves. I don't know anything about their personal lives. It's not my business. We all have our personal lives. Some of them come to fruition in the media, unfortunately, and some don't. But either way, as role models on the field and how they acted and their competitive nature is what brought all those guys, regardless of me playing for Italy or, a Pele, of course, from Brazil. I knew I wasn't going to play for the Brazilian national team, but, it was just Tony Meola, for the U.S. team, the goalie. He was a role model, and just the way it was just it wasn't because somebody could kick it far. It was because of their competitive nature is why I followed these guys.
Definitely. So the NFL transition for you, what lessons at UNC Chapel Hill did you take on to the next level into the NFL?
Well, I was a walk-on, and no matter what any college coach tells you, whether you're a PWO, which is preferred walk-on, or just literally you knock on the door and say, hey, man, can I get a tryout in college? I don't even know if they do that anymore, but they probably do. I learned that, you're not a scholarship player. They always say, if you're part of the team, you're part of the team. That's not true. You do different workout times with the walk-ons. They had a specific workout for us that I wouldn't say tried to make us quit, but it kind of felt that way because pretty much in the middle or after the workouts, you're pretty much going to throw up. The biggest thing, I almost transferred because I was sick of it. But I realized when I backtracked a little bit, the reason I chose North Carolina was for education. And I knew if I had a degree from there, that I would be in good hands no matter what I did, whether I was getting $20,000 a year or $250,000 a year. I knew that with that degree, I can get a job. And a lot of times these days, a lot of people don't have degrees and they're millionaires. So that's great for them. But back in those days, if you had a degree, even now it's important. If you have a degree from that school or a Duke or a Notre Dame or a Florida State or, I'm just naming it, Stanford, those schools, then you're going to get a job somewhere. But the biggest thing was to, never give up. I know that's a cliche. Everybody says that, chase your dreams, all those things. I say the same things because they're true. My aspirations were to play in Kenan Stadium for Mac Brown. Obviously, he left and went to Texas after my first year, so I had 4 more years with 2 different coaches. And so that was interesting. And the first coach I had for 2 years, he knew me. He was a defensive coordinator for us. The other coach just came in blind. So I was a walk-on until my 4th year and earned a scholarship, basically for hanging in there and them rewarding me for my success and hard work and on and off the field. So the biggest thing there was the lessons learned were, nothing's easy in life, absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete or not. To climb the ladder, something's got to go in your favor. A lot of times connections help, of course, but you also have to work. You have to put the work in. And that's what kind of did it for me. I played intramural soccer. It was a blast with some guys I played travel soccer with, so we were really good. I played all those things, and on top of, my football schedule was very strenuous. You get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you do a workout, you go to class until 2:30, you're in meetings at 3:30, and then you're in practice, then you're in study hall. You're done about 8 o'clock at night. So if you don't know how to manage time, which was time management was another thing I learned, you won't make it. And I don't care if you're a walk-on or scholarship player or a Einstein or not real brilliant. You just won't make it. It's tough. But I learned a lot of lessons. From different coaches. Of course, that would take 30 minutes to explain. Definitely. All the way through from my first ever soccer coach, which my dad was one of those, all the way through my soccer coaches, football coaches. So, the biggest thing with me is I played 1 year of high school ball. I was a walk-on to Chapel Hill. I was a walk-on for almost 4 years. I got a scholarship midway through my 4th year and then finished out a year and a half on scholarship and then somehow got an opportunity to play in the NFL.
For sure, man. So from your perspective, later down the road in your NFL journey, 2 Super Bowls, did you see any similarities between both of those teams with the Steelers?
Yeah, the 2 Super Bowls were pretty much even though we had Cowher in one and Tomlin in the other, pretty much what the Steelers had built, with me being a part of it and before me. Then the team started splitting up a little bit and free agents go places. And even my last year there, 2010, they made the Super Bowl and lost to the Packers. I was the captain that year until they released me on week 10. So, a lot of Coach Cowher's guys that Tomlin took under his wing, and he made better, all of us. His coaching style was different than Cowher, but they were both great, and that's why he's still there. The biggest thing is when you come to the same things from college carried over to our Super Bowl in 2005. Super Bowl 40, we had to win, 5 or 6, 5 games to end the season in a row. And then we may or may not sneak in as the 6th seed because there were only 6 teams from each conference then. And we literally won all 5 games because nobody was giving us a chance. And then other things had to happen, like it had to happen for the Steelers this year. For us to get in, and it happened. And then we went through the 2 seed, the 1 seed, and then we played. We went through. Excuse me. The 2 seed was Bengals. Then we went through. We went to Indianapolis Colts. They were about 14-2 or 15-1. They were having an unreal season. We beat them in Indianapolis. Then we go to Denver. Then we won the Super Bowl. So kind of the same things: resiliency. Perseverance, those things that happened with that team, because on paper, we weren't the Los Angeles Rams of this year. We had some good players. We had role players. We all did our thing. But we were a team. We loved each other. We hung out with each other on and off the field. Nobody pointed fingers, whether we were awful that day or awesome. We just tried to get better, and that's what carries over to a championship. And back then, not so much as these days, I wouldn't say defense wins championships. Now you got these mobile quarterbacks that put up 40 points a game. But back then, we were winning ugly games, 17-13, 13-10, 3-0, crazy. And then we, every once in a while, somebody, spiked some points on us, and then we'd also beat somebody by a few touchdowns. But that was rare. It was more of a defensive league then.
Definitely, man. So you brought up Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. Were there any similarities between both those coaches, in your opinion?
Yeah, similarities, obviously. Obviously they're very different because one's old school and one was in his mid-30s when he got there. James Ferrier was one of our linebackers who should be in the Pro Bowl. The Hall of Fame, hopefully at some point. And he was older than Coach Tomlin, so that was kind of cool, kind of fun. They played against each other. Ferrier was at the University of Virginia, and Tomlin was at, I believe James Madison, if I'm not wrong. But they played against each other in college, and that's crazy now. Just like the McVays and the Zach Taylors of the world now. They have some guys that are older than them and that are, they're coaching. So that's pretty cool. But as far as similarities, they're both pretty laid back until you screwed up. They wouldn't come in a meeting and start pointing fingers and calling you out unless you absolutely deserved it and cost the team stupid penalties, stupid off the field incidents. If you struggled one day, they'll just come in there and say, "Well, Jeff, we expect more out of you. We know you're better than that." And it's stuff like that. It wasn't like, "Yeah, you suck. Let's cut you. Let's fire you." They tried to keep the core together because that was the biggest thing. Tom Brady is obviously the best player to play in the NFL. Whether you like him or not, you kind of have to give him his credit. So, but you understand, every place he went, he had a great offensive line. He had a great offensive line. Unless there were injuries throughout the season, then you could see him, not because he's not good, but when he doesn't have that protection, he's not going to outrun everybody, So he needs that protection. That's why the Patriots were so good for so long, because they had role players, but they had that offensive line that wouldn't let anybody touch him. So when you keep a core like that, we had that too. Ben Harley, I was with Cordell Stewart and Tommy Maddox first, and Ben came in 2004. And, Ben was very mobile. But they wouldn't let him touch him very much, or if you did hit him, there's going to be a fight. It was kind of like that. So, the league's changed now. There's a lot of divas. There's some great players, don't get me wrong. But everybody's worried about their stats instead of winning a championship, I think, at times today. When I was playing, there weren't any half-asses, man. Everybody was going after it. Everybody was trying to win, regardless of records. And we had a target on our backs at all times because we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Once again, you either love or hate us back then. So, but the similarities were that, like I said, they were laid back until you screwed up, or until they had to not be. Baltimore Ravens week was always full pads whole week because they knew it was going to be a brutal game. First round of the playoffs, depending on who we're playing, was always brutal. They took care of us for the most part. When Tomlin first got there, he was a new head coach. He'd been coaching for years, but new head coach. He came from Tampa. I think he was there either defensive coordinator or defensive backs. I don't know which. Probably defensive coordinator, but he came in and, tried to put his foot down to something we were used to. And it kind of clashed a little bit. So he eased up a little bit. Not saying practices were easy, because they weren't. Not saying we had an easy life, because it wasn't. Just saying, okay, now he learned what these guys are going to respond to as far as us, the team. So then a lot of their similarities started coming in there. Obviously, the age difference and old school versus new school kind of coach.
For sure. So, Jeff, when you hung your pads up for the last time, scrolling it a little bit forward, the trials and tribulations of the game of football, how have you applied those things to your personal life?
Well, the biggest thing I miss about football, of course, anyone can say the pay is great, because it is, but it is a business. It's corporate America. It's cutthroat. Especially in my position, you make one mistake on the field, and that could cost you your career. You get one injury, obviously it can cost you your career. I didn't miss a game. I played through so many injuries that I wasn't banging heads and getting concussed every week either. I made some tackles and I got hit, and I missed some tackles and all that fun stuff. But, but the biggest thing I miss about the NFL is the camaraderie, and the reason you see after you're done, kind of why you played it. What was your why back when you played? Well, of course, it was to represent my family and to use a God-given talent and get paid for it, because who doesn't want to do that? Whether it's a sport or a CEO or who knows? Maybe your goal is to be, Mike Golick, or maybe it's going to be Chris Collinsworth. I have no idea. I'm just making this up, but I'm just saying what you do for a living. I'm a journalist. I had my own podcast for years. So all of this and getting in front of people is easy for me now. It was before. It wasn't very easy in college, but I can speak in front of 10,000 people and not be nervous. I can speak in front of 5 people and be more nervous than 10,000. Because of maybe who's in front of me and maybe the message delivered. So what I learned is, because as a kicker, or any position, but as a kicker, you get very limited chances. In life, you get very limited chances. So you take advantage of them, and you also, can't buckle under pressure. Now you may come out of something. There's a lot of times I do motivational speaking now, and amongst other things. And there's a lot of times when I come out of it and I'm like, dang, that was good, but I forgot to say this. But that's everything you do. It's the what ifs, or I wish this could have happened, or that's everything you do in life, whether it's sports related or not. But the reason I played in NFL, looking back, was the impact you can have on people's lives just by appearing in front of them. I went to a cancer clinic one time to surprise my chiropractor, who was battling bone cancer, and I didn't make it to him for the first hour because I saw a bunch of, I don't like the hospital. It makes me nervous. And it's just, it's a rough place to see, especially kids, but anybody, because I know one day that could be me. And I'm walking down, I had the crazy blonde hair spiked up. I'm walking down the hallway and told the nurses, I said, I hear a lot of noise in these rooms on my left. I didn't look what was going on. And she said, well, it's because you're here. And I said, what? So these kids were, all IVs in their arms and everything else. And they were, they were jumping off their beds to meet me. And I had no idea. I just heard noise, because I don't like staring in people's rooms, because it makes me upset for them. And I don't, it's their privacy. And, but That's the reason you play the game. I mean, I signed my name today at almost 43 years old, and people cry in front of me. You know, I have people calling me, sending me fan mail to this day, and I haven't played in 10 years. And unfortunately, I wish I was still playing, but all great things come to an end. But just little things like that, and I will never, as long as my health allows me, I will never be out of the spotlight as a Pittsburgh Steeler. There's a lot of teams where you could be the face of the franchise and they won't even care about you once you're done. But the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base knew the practice squad. They knew the guys that played one week and then were on a different team the next week, and they knew people like me. I know I'm second in points in Steelers history and all that great stuff, and that's a great accomplishment, absolutely. I have 2 Super Bowl rings, but they just – I mean, it's great to get to know your fans outside of what they think about you through an interview or on the field or out in public or whatever it may be. So I learned a lot of things about life. You know, you can't trust everybody. That's for sure.
Sure.
You obviously can't trust anybody or everybody. Excuse me. You can trust some people. You know, I had a ton of friends going into the league from, you know, my college and high school days, and they've disappeared. And I don't understand, because we were friends when I was just trying to make a soccer team and do little things way before college. But maybe they lived through that and they thought that was cool. And now they don't care. You know, they're on to the next phase of their life. But that happens all the time. They always want something when you can provide it because you're part of the team and you grew up together. And me, with my heart, I'll do anything for anybody for the most part. But, you know, when those gigs and those accolades, you know, kind of are washed to the side, things change. So you can't trust everybody. You always do your best. It doesn't matter what you set out to do. It could be the easy minor thing you're going to do today. You know you'll accomplish it, but do your best at it. Or it could be something like you doubt yourself. You're like, I don't know. I don't know why my boss wants me doing this, or I'm nervous to interview this guy, or whatever it may be. You just do it because, you know, we're all, God's got us in a position that we're in. A lot of bad things happened to me after football that most people don't know about. And hopefully one day I can write a book and do a documentary kind of thing. So, but nobody knows that because they just think I'm a gazillionaire because I played in the NFL, and they know I won 2 Super Bowls, and whatever they can Google, they find.
For sure. Well, Jeff, my last 2 questions are brought to you by B&D Sports Media, and they're rapid questions. Quick, off the cuff, man. How can the Steelers replace Big Ben next season?
Well, you know, like I said, it's different. I mean, big special dude. I mean, I played 10 years with him, and I think he ended up playing 18 years, and everybody knows his accomplishments. So I don't think he's replaceable, but I do think that they can bring somebody in that can help them win. So I don't think anyone's replaceable. That's my theory. Because everyone's different, everyone's unique. And, you know, when I speak to people, unique, I spell it YOUNIQUE. Not the way it's supposed to be spelled, but everyone is different, everyone is unique. So I don't think he personally is replaceable. However, I think I'm throwing this out there because I know nothing, by the way, a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson, somebody along that, along those lines, I think could instantly come in and turn that team around. Because of what they're doing now, what they have done, and because they have some years left. And then once again, I would assume they're going to draft a young guy to, you know, mold him a little bit and get him used to the Steeler way. But it's going to be hard to replace Ben. You know, I know he wasn't as mobile, and everybody was giving him hell towards the end of his career, but Duke can still play. And without him, who knows how many games they would have won the last few years. So, I think it's going to be a veteran free agent, and I think it's going to be a draft pick. But you got to get that offensive line together and keep them together to have extreme success. Because even though this is coming from a kicker, you win and lose games in the trenches, so they say, defense and offensive line.
For sure. Well, Jeff, Super Bowl 56, Rams versus Bengals. Who's winning it, man?
Yeah. I know the spread's 4.5. Bengals are underdogs, and the Rams are so-called at home. But if you saw that San Francisco game, San Francisco had more fans than the Rams. So I think that's just a good spot for LA. You know, LA fans are I wouldn't say phony is not the right word, but they're kind of like just go there to be seen. And besides the players' families, I get that. But I think LA is a different breed. So I give the advantage to Cincinnati only because nobody even thought for them to be in the playoffs. And then they're the team that, the Chiefs, Tennessee, I kind of saw that coming just because, after 9 sacks, I was shocked. But I think that without them handing the ball to Derrick Henry more plays than they did, I thought Cincinnati had a good chance there. Kansas City down 21-3 at half. I thought that was pretty much over, honestly. And, of course, then again, Buffalo could have easily beaten Kansas City the week before. So, they're the team that's very resilient. Joe Burrow does not get nervous. He does not. If he throws a pick, he's right back out there. He obviously is more mobile than most people give him credit for. And that's just a team you don't want to play. We were that team in 2005, which I described earlier. So I don't think they just cover the spread. I think the Bengals win this game outright.
For sure, man. It's just like you mentioned, one in the trenches, and I don't truly believe in the Bengals offensive line. Just don't believe in them.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that. But if you can see, obviously the Aaron Donalds of the world and those guys are unreal. So not to take anything away from them, but you saw what after Burrow got sacked 9 times against Tennessee, you saw what they did against Kansas City. They got the ball out of his hand really quick. That's why Jamar Chase was not a huge factor until later in the game when Burrow was scrambling. So, if you take what's given to you and you keep getting first downs or you get 3 yards of play and you have to punt on 4th and 1, things like that, they'll be fine. Because eventually you wear the other team down no matter how freakish they are. I know Von Miller and Aaron Donald and I don't know all their players, but they have a hell of a defense. There's no doubt.
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, right. But on paper they're the best team in the NFL, but they didn't play like that until the playoffs started coming around. They almost gave it away to Tampa. So and San Francisco. Both teams had a chance to beat them. So I don't think they're untouchable like a lot of people do. Everyone's thinking they're going to win by, 7, 10 points. Maybe they will. But if Cincinnati takes care of the ball, I think Cincinnati won.
For sure. Well, we'll have to wait until Sunday, man. We'll end on this, man.
That's right.
Where can my audience find you on social media?
Okay, Instagram at the real Jeff Reed. It's at the_real_Jeff_Reed, and then at the real Jeff Reed on Twitter, and of course on Facebook. It's I don't have any other stuff, but I have Facebook, and it's it's just me in my uniform. It really is me. I don't know how I've tried to do. I'm in the process of getting verified on all these things, but it is me. I control all those personally. I don't have someone doing it for me because I like to interact with people, whether they say something stupid or great. I always interact because that's just how I roll. So, and then I'll also have a website coming out, JeffReedKicker.com. You can go to the page now, but there's no information yet on different things, including coaching sessions. I coach kickers and punters, private lessons, cameos, stuff along those lines. So. But those are the main places to find me, and hopefully I have some more information for you soon on other ways.
I'll get it posted for you. It's been a blessing to have you, Jeff, and we'd welcome you back for another one, my friend.